and Pukkelpop in Belgium that same year.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah, Pukkelpop.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's John. His name's Andy. They exchanged a look. An hour later, her voice shook. When her whispering died, she cried. Never wants to recover, she cried. More on that later. But first, Andy, what have you got in store for us today?
I would like to bring a band to the channel called Sponge. Have you ever heard of Sponge?
The band? No.
Yeah, okay. Yes, it is the band. And well, then that's good. The track by them is a track called Plowed. So yeah, you've got everything you need. I'd be interested to hear your take on this track. So please go off, give it a listen, and let me know.
That I can do.
Okay, excellent, man. Thank you.
Okay, nice start. I like that sort of guitar riff. It's kind of reminding me of the Cult in a way. Um, yeah, and the sound and the imagery is like 90s American alternative rock. Um, Under the shadow of a couple of bands that came before it, obviously. Yeah, interesting. Let's his voice sounds like many others. Yeah, let's see how this goes.
What will change us or will we mess up? Only chance to connect with dreams. Say a prayer for me. Say a prayer for me. Say a prayer for me. I'm buried by the sound of a world of human wreck.
I think that must have been the chorus. Yeah, sadly, that really nice guitar riff didn't continue through the verse, which is a bit of a shame. And this chorusy bit, it's almost like chiming. I can't see a keyboard, so it must be one of the guitars doing it. It's kind of mimicking a bit of his vocal melody. Me, it's giving like huge sort of AOR vibes. This is like more radio friendly bit of the song, and less edgy than would be described the verse. I kind of dislike it, to be fair. I don't like that at all. But I imagine that's the catchy, hooky bit which people really like. You know, horses for courses. Lead singer, he kind of reminds me of like a cleaned up version of Perry Farrell. It's got that sort of bird-like quality to him, sort of twitchy and stuff. But yeah, okay.
In a world of human wreckage. In a world of human wreckage. Well, I'm lost and I'm found and I can't touch the ground. I'm plowed into the sound.
Nice guitar again. that bit there. That's kind of saving the song for me. Because the rest, honestly, is a bit much of a muchness for me. But when they went into this next verse, this like feedbacky type guitar was bleeding through and continuing, and then it went into a bit of a noodle just then. That's really nice. Let's just get the last few.
Open with a head that's broken. Hang a lamp on some tragedy. Plow me under the ground that covers the mistakes that is the same. Say a prayer for me. Say a prayer for me. Say a prayer for me. I'm buried by the sound of a world of human wreckage. In a world of human wreckage. In a world of human wreckage. Well, I'm lost and I'm found and I can't touch the ground. I'm plowed into the sound. Will I wake up to dream I made up? No, I guess it's reality.
The Doc Brown at the end. Where we're going, Marty, we don't need roads. Yeah, the song was all right. Didn't grab me. I didn't like that chorusy bit. It just felt really sort of straight AOR, American stuff that isn't my bag at all. I really liked that sort of guitar coming in for the second half of it and that feedbacky kind of noise to it, and then the sort of noodling bits they did lifted it up for me. And that original guitar riff as well was really nice. So yeah, good and bad points to this. I imagine that this was extremely popular. I could see it being so. I guess we'll have to find out more by going back and chatting it up with Andy.
All right, so you've returned from your experience listening to the super absorbent sounds of Sponge and this tune Plowed. What'd you make of it, man?
Okay, so starts off. I'm not sure if it's actual note or if it's feedback. By the way, nice like screechy noise morphs into a guitar riff. This guitar riff is quite sort of bright and driving, and it kind of reminded me a bit of the Cult. It had a, dare I say it, a bit of a British sound to that particular guitar riff. Just my take. In come the drums, and the main song presents itself. And it certainly takes a bow and says, I am 100% mid-90s American music, old rock. I mean, no questions from the off. And there's there's lots of little bits I'm picking up in the first 20, 30 seconds. There's other bands, but I mean, things like the shadow of Pearl Jam sort of hangs over it a little bit, but it's a bit, it's not, but it's kind of, yeah. And also, the lead singer looks like a really scrubbed up and cleaned up version of Harry Farrell. Son's tattoos and stuff.
Yeah,
but he has
that was
same
that
sort
was
of,
the whole look at the time, right? That sort of heroin chic look that everybody had.
but they both have that sort of bird-like quality, the way they
Yeah.
sort of move as well, like a
Yeah.
stork or something. And it's just, and you're right, there's a few of them around back then, but it just struck me then as also Perry looks well. Normally he looks fucked. So that was nice. So we lose that guitar bit for the first verse, and then we sort of into a more sort of traditional 90s alt rock verse. And it has that kind of seesaw quality to it. It kind of goes up and down a bit, and the music bobs to the vocal melody.
Yeah.
And it's really punctuated by the bass going up and down. That's the kind of the thing that's hauling everyone up and down, and you get a splash from the drummer each time as well, which is a nice like indicator. I will say his voice is quite of that, and I prefer his voice in the choruses than in the verses. It's very sort of run of the mill for me, and it's a bit lower, and it doesn't have as much character apart from that one characteristic of being low and growly, you know.
Yeah.
But when he sings in the chorus, you get more of an expanse of what he can do, and I think, you know, so that's just my bit of the verses. I didn't think were that interesting to me. But so we hear the chorus, and he sings, say a prayer for me. That's it. Say a prayer for me. And this bit behind it, there are like a chiming sound that I would normally associate with the sort of AOR keyboard line. Now, in the video, I can't see any keyboards, but as we know, a music video is not documented evidence of what happened in the production of a track. They can lie. So I don't know if it's like the guitar doing something or if it's a keyboard track doing it. But what it does is, again, it kind of mimics in a way the vocal line where it's going, say, perfect, so ding, 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 ding. And I think that is a very sort of tried and tested technique that would hook the casual viewer. I don't particularly like that sound of that keyboard, so it kind of put me off a little bit. And it's the most sort of, how do I put it, American mainstream part of the song, that sort of 2 or 3 lines. And it really brought to mind to me, I was kind of thinking when I was listening to it, and as soon as I finished, Atari's Boys of
Mhm.
Summer.
Yeah.
But I mean, the original as well, I guess. I just never
Yeah.
bloody listened to the original. I didn't listen to their version. But it's that same bit of the way they use the keyboards in the chorus, you know. And it is it's more of an American sound than it is a British sound that does that. It's not the thing that sort of gets my motor running, as they say. He has a line. So when he sings that as well, sorry to get into it, he sings it, and then they're showing the video, but obviously it's repeated with that the line again, say a prayer for me. It's repeated in that sort of filtered voice that we have talked about so many times
Yeah, and
that we
very much
should
recently.
we should come up with a nickname for it. So I'm going to call it intercom voice. Yeah, and I don't mind that. I quite like that. It's fine. I did think he sings a couple other bits, and then he goes into a line which the very first time I heard it, I thought he did sing "In a World of Human Reggae," and I thought that's an interesting statement. And then I quickly realised it's wreckage. Oh dear, I think. And if you say something else, I'm going to right to it. But then there's the part he starts singing about being lost and found, and again the chord changes there. I think were kind of that sort of AOR feel to it as well, and probably only picked it up because of the difference in the sort of tonality of the verse compared to the chorus. It's very different. You know, it's kind of like, we're sort of, grunge, post grunge, don't know what the term is, sort of, rocking guys. And then there's this like lighter touches to the chorus. It's absolutely fine. I think a lot of people will like it. For me, it's just not quite so much. But there you go. It's not terrible, don't get me wrong. I didn't hate it. It just didn't tick boxes. So then we go back to that really nice guitar riff, which Billy Duffy would be proud of. Um, and that there's a bit sort of like 30 seconds or so, 20, 30 seconds. And with the drum beats really pounding and the bass actually coming in, it sounds really good. And at this point in particular, although all the way throughout, I did suddenly just notice that there was the video going on, and the imagery outside of the guys flicking their hair around was so 90s, like the image of the family at the table and the twister outside, and there was like a soldier or something. But even the color palette was so much of that time as well. So I enjoyed that. And then there's this nice kind of feedback howl, like proper, that bleeds into the second verse, but it continues and it sort of starts to wiggle like a worm on the end of a line. And then it turns into this indulgent noodling on top. They're doing these little bits. I bloody love that. I really liked it. And it's quite cheesy, but in the context of the song, it works so well. And it continues. So we get the chorus again and that high guitar parts coming through. And I think actually for me, it really added a lot to it, and it kind of tied it together. I really, really liked it. And then we get like a half a verse, and then abruptly we're done. It's like somebody forgot to pay their bill, and that's it. I will say at the end, though, it was nice to see Doc Emmett Brown making a cameo there.
Good.
So yeah, this track it made me it made me think different things at once, and that's probably where I sort of struggle with it a little bit because it made me think of that sort of post grungy, post Pearl Jammy, post whatever you want to call it. They don't sound like any of these bands, you know, it's their own thing, it's fine. But with a touch of the sort of Bryan Adams as well was a weird combination, which probably disorientated me. I could see for those reasons as well, this being probably quite successful, radio friendly, definitely, and probably quite popular. It just didn't quite, land with me.
All right, fair, fair. I'm glad
There's
you were
bits of
able
it I really
to.
liked, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say, I'm glad you could still find some redeeming qualities in it. If
Mm,
even at a whole, it didn't, captivate you or anything like that. And it's not
yeah,
like it's like one of my favorite songs or anything, but it is quintessentially a 90s American song. And it
yeah,
was
I
everywhere
get
when I
that.
was
Yeah.
when I was growing up for sure. But yeah, Sponge, they are an American rock band, as you were so correctly observed, from Detroit Rock City, Michigan.
Ah.
They were formed in 1992 by vocalist Vinny Dombrowski, guitarist Mike Cross, bassist Tim Cross, drummer Jimmy Pelusi, and guitarist Joey Mazzola. And Dombrowski, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just be aware when you've got a group of people and all their surnames end in vowels, just be aware.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say Dombrowski is the most Midwest name ever. Just from out there, Detroit, Chicago. If you meet a
Sure.
Dombrowski, their family's just really big. But yeah,
They've got to have a
Dombrowski.
restaurant somewhere as well, haven't they?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Dombrowski and the Cross Brothers were previously in a hard rock band called Loud House, with Mazzola joining later before the end of the band's tenure. Sponge's discography includes 10 studio albums, 4 live albums, and several charting singles. Uh, they've undergone several lineup changes throughout the band's history, with the founder and frontman Dombrowski serving as the band's sole constant member. The band released their 10th studio album entitled 1994 this year in 2024. So
Oh,
obviously 1994 was a big year for them, as we will get
sure.
into it. So after the singer of Loud House left the band, Dombrowski decided to move from drums at the time to vocals, and then the band recruited Mazzola as the second guitarist and Paluzzi to replace Dombrowski on drums. You're right, a lot of vowels here. The band decided to start fresh, just Poles and Italians. The band decided to start fresh and name themselves Sponge. They began working on new music and performed in bars and clubs, recognized for having a dual guitar sound reminiscent of MC5. Some of the bands and artists that Sponge has cited as influences included the aforementioned MC5, the Stooges, Iggy Pop. You can't have the Stooges without Iggy Pop.
Yeah.
David Bowie, the Velvet Underground, Alice Cooper, Bob Seger, Aerosmith, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Sex Pistols, the Clash, the Psychedelic Furs, and Hank Williams. So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Grouping of influential artists that they've.
You could draw a line with quite a lot of those. But
Yeah,
I've heard one song, do you know what I mean? So I haven't got a clue. But it's interesting because everybody's got little, offshoots of their core sound or whatever. And it's those are the interesting bits that make it
yeah,
unique. If I'm
yeah.
just like Stooges, Velvet Underground, Bowie, whatever, you just get that. But you throw in a bit of Hank and you're away, aren't you?
Yes, exactly. And then you get, it doesn't become so like pastiche or like just a carbon
Yeah.
copy of another sound you've already heard. So, yeah, they were in concert. Sponge has also performed songs by Danny Davis, and the Nashville Brass, The Ramones, Lou Reed, AC/DC, and Pink Floyd. So they aren't strangers to covering
Wow.
artists as well. Their debut album, Rotting Pinata, was released in August of 1994. So perhaps this is why they named their most recent album 1994. Um, so Sponge embarked on their first national tour around this time, and they toured alongside Failure, Inch, and Rust. Ah, the
Oh,
heyday of one word band names.
yeah.
Sponge, Failure, Inch, Rust. The tour was noted as being a pre-Palooza party for the 1994 incarnation of Lollapalooza. Sponge made their television debut on October 18th as they appeared on the Jon Stewart Show. The songs Nina Menasha and Plowed were released as the first and second singles, respectively, off of Rotting Pinata, with Plowed entering the mainstream rock chart on November 19th. By the end of 94, Charlie Grover replaced Palooza on drums. Sponge toured with Live, Love Spit Love, and Soundgarden in 1995, and
Mm.
also performed the musical festivals Edgefest, is it Rock am Ring, a German festival, Xfest, Sunstroke in Ireland, and Pukkelpop in Belgium that same year. I love
Oh, that sounds nice.
yeah, Pukkelpop. Plowed, along with the third single that was released, Molly (parentheses 16 Candles Down the Drain), received heavy airplay on the radio.
Oh, Ringwald.
Yes, yes, exactly. Which actually is another pretty decent song by them as well. It just received a shit ton of airplay on radio and MTV, and the album was certified gold by the RIAA on July 14th of 1995. The fourth single, Rainin', was released in October of 95 and had moderate success on the mainstream rock and alternative songs charts as well. Ultimately, Rotting Pinata entered the Billboard 200 chart in February 1995 and peaked at number 58 in May of that year and stayed on the chart for 40 straight weeks.
Hmm.
All Music describes Sponge's sound as being a versatile blend of classic hard rock, and punchy alt pop with a thin metal veneer. Trouser Press was more positive about their album, noting Plowed and Molly as having catchy hooks and hummable choruses, while also being colored by murky sonic structures that layer a bit of lead around their listener-friendly cores. They also wrote, elsewhere on Rotting Pinata, Sponge shows an affinity for density and drone, particularly in penny wheels, and the metallic chug of Nina Menasha, while Giants explores tense instrumental dynamics. Collaborating in a review of the album on the Dig Me Out podcast, Jason Dziak and Tim Minnecki said this of the album and the band. By 1994, the single, Christ on a bike, Andy. By 1994, the signing frenzy was in full swing. The bands new and old found their way to major labels. Some were teenagers from Australia. I think that's a thin veiled reference to Silverchair. While others might have veterans of Midwestern hard rock and metal bands, as was the case with Sponge. If there is a reason for why their major label debut, Rotting Pinata from 1994, sounds so confident, it's because this wasn't the first time figuring things out. That confidence shows as the album balances tight melodic singles with album tracks that incorporate a wide palette of influences from the 80s psychedelic furs and REM to 90s shoegaze and metal. So,
Mm.
let's jump into these lyrics. Will I wake up, some dream I made up? No, I guess this is reality. What will change us, or will we mess up? Our only chance to connect with a dream. Say a prayer for me, 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 say a prayer for me. I'm buried by the sound of a world of human wreckage, in a world of human wreckage, in a world of human wreckage. Well, I'm lost and I'm found, and I can't touch the ground. I'm plowed into the sound. To see wide open with a head that's broken, hang a life on some tragedy, plow me under the ground that covers the message that is the seed. Say a prayer for me, 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 say a prayer for me. I'm buried by the sound of a world of human wreckage, in a world of human wreckage, in a world of human wreckage. Well, I'm lost and I'm found, and I can't touch the ground. I'm plowed into the sound. Will I wake up? Some dream I made up? No, I guess this is reality. So it seems that the song is about pursuing your dream in spite of being surrounded by self doubt, naysayers, tragedy, and an endless sea of other people clawing at and trying to achieve the same goal. At least that's what I've been able to discover upon reading up on it. And some of the lyrics, I think, kind of illustrate that as well. But yeah, these guys are definitely a 90s fixture, especially as we sort of, I don't know, figured out where we were going in a post-grunge world without sounding too post-grungy. There are some bands that are like you've talked about them in the band or in the past, were like God, I hate to do this, but Bush was one of those kind of bands, I think.
Yeah.
And there are countless others. These guys, not so much, but I think they kept just enough aspect of the grunge era to make them familiar, but not to just be a, like we said a moment ago, a carbon copy of something that came before. So thank you for giving this a listen, John. I appreciate your
No
input.
problemo.
Yeah, respect it and actually understand it, especially as some time has passed, and also offering sort of your outsider perspective on something that a lot of us here were too deep in the forest, maybe to recognize or see. So good shouts on some of the observations you made. People out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of Sponge and the song Plowed. We'd be interested to hear what you had to say. Other artists maybe they remind you of, other contemporaries that we have yet to check out on this channel that perhaps we should. Whatever you have to offer, please drop it down in the comment field. The only price of admission is kindness to us and each other. We really do appreciate it. Also, please like, share, and subscribe if you'd be so inclined. Any one or all of those things would go a long way in helping us prop up the channel here and appeasing the YouTube gods. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All that out of the way, hopefully we will catch you on the next installment of the Audiophiles. See you later, guys.